these are the end times. There was no hope of survival, and this is how you died. There is no power fantasy here, no heroic escape. Before you even make a character, the game has already written down your obituary. That's the bleak premise which makes Project Zomboid so compelling. You aren't fighting to win, you're making a diary entry in the inevitable ledger of your demise. Zomboid's opening deliberately kills you, because the entire experience is built on that inevitability. It's not about living forever, it's about how long can you stave off the end. That tension is what lets a 10-year-old early access sandbox grow into something more philosophical than a simple zombie survival game. Project Zomboid is introduced with a line from its Steam description. Project Zomboid is the ultimate in zombie survival. Alone or in multiplayer, you loot, build, craft, fight, farm, and fish in a struggle to survive. But that marketing undersells just how oppressive the world actually is. Pine Hosting offers high-performance game servers that are specifically designed for fast setup and stability. With Project Zomboid, you can create a server in just minutes. You'll be able to launch, manage, and customize your server effortlessly. They also offer workshop integration, meaning you can install mods directly from the Steam Workshop with just a few clicks, with servers across multiple regions. And each server includes built-in DDoS protection. On top of all that, Pine Hosting offers affordable pricing. And if you use the code COMP, you'll get 30% off your first order. They host a wide range of games including Minecraft Rust, Valheim, and more. Already have a server with another provider? Pine support team will personally assist you in moving your server. Visit Pine Hosting using the link in the description below. It supports the channel and it gets you started the right way. It takes place in Knox County, a fictionalized slice of rural Kentucky, modeled on the towns of Muldraugh, West Point, and Louisville. The year is 1993 by default. The summer days are muggy and bright, and the power grid will eventually fail regardless of what you do. Zomboid simulates day-night cycles, seasons, and even the slow creep of nature reclaiming neighborhoods. It feels alive, precisely because everything is slowly dying. From a design perspective, the isometric camera choice is brilliant. It gives you a godlike view of your small, fragile character, but also conceals danger behind hedges and door frames. Streets stretch away into black fog, and you often hear glass shatter before you see who broke it. This tension between what you can observe and what you imagine waiting for you in the darkness is where so much of Project Zomboid's narrative happens. The map is enormous, a simulation of the entire county, and you need vehicles just to cross it. The emptiness invites your mind to fill it with stories. Zomboid isn't satisfied with a single health bar. It simulates dozens of human needs through moodles, the in-game name for status effects. When night falls, you fight exhaustion, hunger, thirst, and boredom. Failing to sleep leaves you clumsy and slow. A deep cut will bleed you out if you don't clean and bandage it. Your survivor can become depressed, bored, hungry, thirsty, and ill. In other words, the game replicates the tedious bit of existence because it knows that in a world full of zombies, dehydration is still more likely to kill you than a bite. These mundane systems are balanced by robust skills and crafting. Over time, your survivor becomes better at carpentry, cooking, farming, trapping, tailoring, and dozens of other disciplines. Unlike many RPGs, you don't assign points arbitrarily. You improve by doing. You also have to scavenge. Weapons, food, and medicine don't spawn magically. You find them in vacated streets and buildings. Sometimes that means bashing open a door to get to the supplies, or crawling through a pitch-black pharmacy, hoping your flashlight doesn't run out of batteries before you find what you need. Base building is another answer to the game's lethality. You can barricade doors and windows with planks, build new walls and stairs, and even construct entire houses from scratch. Farming, trapping, and fishing give you renewable food sources, but because power and water shut off after a few in-game weeks, your safe house is always on borrowed time. Rain barrels become precious. Wells become points of interest. Every system the game adds is designed to postpone death, not prevent it. What makes Project Zomboid different from other survival games isn't just how many meters you have to watch, but the fact that death is final. You can continue playing on the same map only by loading it with a new character, but your old survivor is gone. There's no quick load to undo this mistake. You might survive for weeks, build a farm, and stockpile weapons, and then die to the most random things. And in the end, each failure is definitive and instructive. This permanence makes every choice matter. Do you risk breaking into the gun store for weapons? Or do you just spend another day learning carpentry? The answer often depends on how you wish to die. Zomboid's own marketing hammers this point home, so how will you die? All it takes is a bite. That knowledge sits in the back of your mind as you hack at a horde with the kitchen knife. Even the game's tutorial delights in inevitable death. It teaches you how to zoom, loot, and swing a weapon, but it also tricks you into pressing Q, the shout key, which draws a horde that you can't escape. There's no way out of the fenced area, and only limited food. You can survive for a short time by outsmarting the horde, but starvation will eventually force you into a last stand. That design choice is the purest expression of Zomboid's ethos. The how matters more than the if. Because death is permanent, but the world isn't wiped, Project Zomboid becomes a machine for generating personal stories. If you die, your corpse remains where you fell, surrounded by whatever you carried. If you barricaded a house, it stays barricaded. If you burn down a grocery store, the charred ruin will be there when you spawn in as someone else. A new survivor steps into the consequences of your old one's life. That continuity turns the map into a journal written by every run you've ever played. Returning to your own safe house with a different character and finding the door ripped off its hinges is as thrilling as any scripted horror set piece. There's also social storytelling. In multiplayer, you share a persistent world with friends or strangers. The last stand you made at West Point might become someone else's camp. Communities will form, betrayals will happen, and sometimes a single infected player will doom an entire server. Those emergent dynamics align Zomboid with immersive sims and survival sandboxes more than the typical zombie shooters. It asks you to think like a community member, not a lone hero, to plan for a future of a world you won't live to see. So why does Project Zomboid resonate beyond its systems? One answer lies in the way it forces us to think about control and chance. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote that success is a battle between the skills and boldness we bring to life and the chaotic flood of circumstance. He compared fortune to a river that destroys villages, but argued that prudent rulers build dams to mitigate disaster. Zomboid is Machiavellian design, disguised as a zombie game. Half of your survival comes from your own actions, learning carpentry, boiling water, building rain barrels, and choosing when to fight or flee. The other half is fortune, a helicopter event that drags every zombie to your house, a house alarm that goes off when you pick the wrong window, a cut or scratch because you climbed over a fence too quickly. You can prepare, but you can never eliminate randomness. This balance encourages a particular mindset. Like Machiavelli's advice to princes, Zomboid encourages you to be both the fox and the lion, cunning enough to avoid traps and strong enough to scare away threats. Stealth, evasion, and discretion are as important as brute force. Playing Zomboid effectively means embracing adaptability. One day you're a carpenter repairing walls. The next you're a scavenger sprinting through a grocery store while your lungs burn. The world doesn't care how you think it should be. You must meet it as it is. There's also an undercurrent of nihilism in Zomboid that makes it strangely comforting. When you start a new run, the game tells you that there is no hope of survival. Every time you load a character, you accept that you will die. In a medium obsessed with power fantasies and the illusion of progress, Zomboid quietly insists that loss is inevitable, and that honesty is freeing. It invites you to make peace with failure and focus instead on the story you craft within the time you have. You're not the chosen one. You're just one more human in a world that will forget you. But given all this bleakness, why do so many people love Project Zomboid? Partly because its systems are genuinely satisfying. Cooking a stew with 5 different ingredients gives you a positive moodle and a tangible edge in combat. Growing crops and collecting rainwater feels like an achievement. Sneaking through a hospital packed with hundreds of zombies and emerging with a bottle of disinfectant triggers the same adrenaline rush as any action game. Players find meaning not in defeating the game, but in surviving another day. There's also communal catharsis. When a character you've nurtured for months dies from a silly mistake, you share that story. The subreddit is full of posts titled, "I just lost my 2-month character," and each one is a cautionary tale for the next survivor. The permanence of death turns every failure into knowledge. Every obituary is a tutorial for someone else. Finally, Project Zomboid taps into a primal fascination with how societies collapse and how individuals navigate that collapse. It simulates not just combat, but boredom, depression, and the loneliness of an empty world. In doing so, it forces you to confront the reality that society isn't a given. It's a fragile network of power, water, and companionship that can be severed in a single event. Keeping a candle lit on a cold winter night in Zomboid feels meaningful because it's a small victory against encroaching darkness. Project Zomboid is a survival game that always ends in death. It wears that ethos on its sleeve, from the black screen obituary of its opening to the auto-saving finality of every demise, by simulating hunger, thirst, illness, and boredom, by making every bite potentially lethal, and by ensuring the world persists even after you're gone. It asks you to focus on how you live, rather than how long. Its sprawling Kentucky map is a memento mori etched into pixels, a reminder that in life and in Zomboid, the river will eventually overflow its banks, and that all we can do is build our dams, plant our crops, tell our stories, and make peace with the flood.